We're willing to pass at least a short-term budget that opens up the government at current funding levels. It doesn't even address the harm that's been done because of sequestration.
That was President Obama kicking, well, cracking, well, leaning on, well, nudging, maybe, the door on negotiations with Republicans by talking about the possibility of a short-term emergency funding resolution to do that and raise the debt ceiling so they could have a 6 or 8 week discussion about how to fund the government, how to deal with the debt ceiling, and how to do that stuff. This is Powerplay. Now, that's good news if you are a centrist, moderate kind of person looking for, as everybody always claims to be, a deal that is good for everybody. They lie, but that's what everybody always is supposed to say. If, however, you are part of the president's political base, an intellectual on the left in America, that was really bad news. That made you really mad. You know why? Because that's the president saying, eventually we're going to do something like the sequestration or like the super committee that results in more cuts and a negotiation eventually on the debt ceiling. So what about that? It's not going to happen, right? But sometimes in the process of things not happening, actual things occur, actual events occur. And actually with you now are Richard Fowler. He is the host of the aptly named Richard Fowler Show on We Act Radio, which in Washington, D.C. you can listen to on WPWC 1480 AM and around the country syndicated. And Daniel Garza, is this your third trip to Powerplay? Is this your third Powerplay appearance?
Indeed it is, the third time. Yeah.
Getting to be, I would almost describe you as a regular.
Regular, wow. What
as much as anything is regular on Powerplay, but you are of the Libre Initiative.
Libre Initiative.
Every time I try a little more, and every time I don't quite get the Libre Institute Initiative, you are of the conservative flavor. You are a former telecaster for Telemundo.
That's Univision.
Univision. I'm getting it now. Okay, now I'm
your
feeling
stations
it.
right,
I got to get my stuff. Look, I gave you a perfect plug. Don't pile on me again. I gave you all your stuff.
I'm messing with you.
All right, so here's the thing, Richard. Noam Scheiber, who is a smart, he is sort of like if Ezra Klein is a little too mainstream for you, Noam Scheiber is a big brain on the left. He writes at The New Republic about economic policy. He's somebody I've read for years. I was taken aback by what he said in the website yesterday, or maybe it was early today, but yesterday or early today, which said, no, let the debt ceiling burst. Do it. Because if you don't do it now, you'll continue negotiating with Republicans and bring it on now. And I thought, that's pretty intense. And then I read Ruth Marcus at the Washington Post, and she said, yeah, do it. Let's just blow this thing up. Don't negotiate. And I thought, that's pretty scary. Like, I'm getting a little scared.
What we heard from the president's press conference yesterday was a clear indication that we cannot go off what we can't, make our debt just go bust. It just doesn't work that way. And I think if you look at there's a lot of other op-eds out there. I remember one in the New York Times a couple of days ago that indicated this is like playing with and I think Warren Buffett said, it's like playing with a nuclear weapon. When you talk about we're going to default on our debt, we've heard people in this body, in this building say, let's default, and that's a great ideal. And that just blows my mind. And beyond the fact that the impacts of it are sort of on the nebulous level you're talking about, global markets and stuff like that, but when you default on our debt, interest rates for people at home, mortgages, rent payments, all those things begin to inflate, and it really affects the American people at home. And we're starting to see the impact of the shutdown already happening in people's homes and people's communities.
No one has said that we should not pay our obligation. What Republicans are saying is that, well, maybe we have to cut federal spending by 45% tomorrow. Rand Paul on Fox News today basically said, well, no one's talking about default. What we're talking about is we'll have to just slash until we get there. But even that, as you say, would rattle credit markets, et cetera. Before I get to you, Daniel, I have to get to the actual answer. Having done the preamble, now we have to get to the actual answer. Liberals are concerned that the president is going to negotiate.
Well, I don't think that the progressives are concerned the president's going to negotiate. I think what I see is that I think the president's in a very strong position. One, we need to get this government reopened again so we get the American people back to work.
Should he negotiate? Should he do a short-term deal?
I think we need a short-term deal that is a clean CR.
Ooh, he said it.
Clean CR.
Yeah, but a clean CR for 3 weeks.
A 4-month deal, but with that being said, I think that has to be connected with constraints of building a longer budget fight.
We stipulated it. We need to run our government better because our government stinks on ice, and everyone everyone knows that. Daniel, the John Boehner, I was looking at John Boehner yesterday, and I'm like looking at him, and he's like, I'm so mad. And it's like, thank God, thank God. Like you could see behind his face, like the president has finally taken a little bit of what they've been putting out, which is, we're not going to be able to solve this all right now. Let's get us all out of jail a little bit and get a few weeks of borrowing authority here, get the Social Security checks out, and move on to the next thing.
I think that's reasonable. It's not an extreme position for one side of let's say, Capitol Hill to say, let's talk, let's negotiate. You know, it's also, I think, naive of the president if he thinks that somehow the Republican Party is going to not represent their constituency and drive their interest in Congress and just, cede to whatever the president wants. They have to come to the table. And it's not something that hasn't been done before in the past. This is Washington. Right. We compromise. We talk.
Joe Manchin, that's what Joe Manchin, a Democrat, said. The problem for the red team, though, is very clear, which is John Boehner is trying to throw a penny through the eye of a needle from 1,000 yards, and he's got to make sure that he's got enough political cover, that it's bad enough and tight enough that the conservative members of his conference are going to say, well, we're not really going to be able to get Obamacare because it won't take long for the people who work in this office building.
Look, I think they've
it won't take them long. Right now, they were scared yesterday.
Right.
Tomorrow they'll say, we're winning. Let's go.
But I think the Republicans have already moved from that position. They are now calling to just at least postpone the individual mandate for a year and tell Congress, look, whatever exemption you gave yourself, you should give to the rest of the American people.
I don't think that. Listen, I think Obama. I honestly think that this is power play. So let's
get real. Let's keep it real.
Talk about the play here, right? So I think the Republicans overplayed their hand leaps and bounds with the Ted Cruz thing, right? And so I think because of that, I think Obamacare is completely off the table for Republicans. They're not going to get anything on Obamacare. And we saw today. We look at the whip count from today. It shows that if a clean CR were to hit the floor minus the Hastert rule, it would pass. And whose whip
count was that?
Listen,
a whip count.
There was a whip
count. We
know for a fact that we have 200 votes. All you would need is about 17 Republicans.
I don't think you'd get them if you brought it.
And I think you would get 17 Republicans. All the Republicans in moderate districts.
No, the polling, Daniel, says that nobody likes to raise the debt ceiling, and the president has been on a years long now, a 5-year long or 4-year long now crusade to say the debt ceiling is not borrowing. We have to raise the debt ceiling. Quit being such a bunch of mooks about this. Now go.
I find it ironic that it was President Obama who actually said we have a debt problem and a leadership problem in explaining why he had voted no against raising the debt limit when he was senator.
We will point out, though, he was sorry. He said that. He said in an interview in 2011 when it was like, why did you say that? And he was like,
well, it's kind of hypocritical for him to say
I was
it now.
being heinous, and I'm sorry.
I think the hypocrisy goes on both sides on this one, Chris.
I'll give you that.
You think about
stipulated. We stipulate.
I'll see to you next. I mean, you think about it when conservatives say this is, we've dealt with these government shutdown things before. We've dealt with this 17 times in the past. This one is a lot different. Usually we're talking about a number, a tax number, a budget number, a cut number. Now we're talking about a piece of law that is already in place.
He's going to negotiate. Do we agree? Is everybody in agreement here?
I think he's going to negotiate. It's the right thing to do.
We'll have to see. That means he's going to negotiate.
It's a reasonable thing to do.
But there's no negotiating over the fact that you guys are gracious, wonderful guests, whatever is on your necktie. And next time for your 4th visit, we expect something less weird. Guys, we thank you for making time for us today. You, Internet, stick around. The head of the Republican Study Committee, those are the conservatives in the House of Representatives, who will be here, and he will pass judgment on these wild-eyed speculations that we have been engaging here. What will conservatives really go for in a budget deal? He'll tell us when we come back, so stick around.